Good evening, everybody. This is Marty from Dawgs blog. Oops. Why are you laughing at me? That wasn't funny. Anyway, I'm just having some fun here. Got some sound effects on this thing I was playing with. Before we get started on today's podcast, the big thing that's on everybody's mind, it's blown up my website. On the poll, do you believe Kurt Bunch deserves, or do you think it's unfair to call Kurt Bunch an asshole, as he was called an asshole about a week and a half ago by a witness on the stand who said he thought Kurt Bunch was an asshole. In the interest of fairness, we wanted to be able to put it out there for everybody to get their opinion. The poll has received over 7,000 votes. It's gone crazy, and it's kind of gone back and forth. And right now, I'm looking at it right now, and the question is, do you think it's unfair to call Kurt Bunch an asshole? The yeses have it by 43%. He deserves it has 36%. And that's made a big push today because it was a bigger gap, much bigger gap earlier today. He's a great guy, has 20%, and no is 1%, and other is 0% with only 15 votes. There's a lot of comments that have been made. Well, not a lot, quite a few comments have been made from both sides of the fence. And I know you guys can't see the comments, so we have some comments made by the people supporting Kurt Bunch, and we have a lot of comments by the people not supporting Kurt Bunch. It's very interesting what some of these comments are, and I will post those at the end when we're all done. I'm not going to say what they are at this point. I don't want responses to the comments. I want true feelings in this thing, and this will go down Sunday as they run for a week. I have no control over that. That's just what they do, and so probably after it goes down Sunday, or maybe Monday, probably more like Monday, I will put up everything in its entirety. I don't hide things on Dawgs blog. I have nothing to hide. I put it out there for everybody to read. I put out there for some of the dumbass things that are said. I put it out there for the intelligent things that are said. I put everything out there. When I do interviews, I do not edit the interviews. I let people hear exactly what I heard. Things like that. That's the way I do things. So you got something to say it. It'll be posted, and that's all there is to it. So it's been interesting. A lot of people have been interested in this, and there's a lot of repetitive voting going on. That's okay. That's all in the fun of it. This is all in fun, and some people don't think it's fun, apparently, with some of the comments that are made towards myself and other people. And there are comments that are made towards Mr. Bunch. So we will reveal that at the end. I don't want responses to the comments at this point. I want honesty. Put it out there. Say what you feel. I'm okay with that. No matter what you say, I'm okay with that. That's how I do things. That's the policy of Dawgs blog. And as long as I'm running Dawgs blog, it'll always be the policy of Dawgs blog. I believe in letting people have their say, no matter what you have to say, unless you're getting totally stupid, which some people like that wear microphones do sometimes. So currently, I'm looking at my analytics. There is somebody on that post right now. I have also note that I have no idea who these people are. I don't. The ones doing the voting for Kurt Bunch are using IP spoofers and stuff. I don't care about that. That doesn't mean anything to me. So I don't know who's voting what. I have no idea. I see IP addresses. It means nothing to me because I don't get personal information. It just gives me a general area. It'll say Turlock, it'll say Modesto, it may say, Sacramento, Stockton, whatever. And I get a lot of hits from all over the state and quite a few across the country on the Carson case, and I get quite a few over, not a lot, but quite a few overseas that are related to people and such, or have a personal interest in this case. People traveling are constantly coming from overseas. So I just wanted to get that out there, let everybody know. We have today's podcast on the Frank Carson, what happened in court today. This is October 26, 2018. The judge was on the bench at 1:39. She got on the bench prior to the jury coming up. There was something that she was talking about, some discovery or something, and it's about discovery of DNA. And I don't really know exactly what the issue was that she was talking about. It must have been something on a motion filed or something. I really don't know. But she said she was giving case sites that she was telling the attorneys that a DNA company like the Siri Lab, and that's SERI if you want to look them up, the Siri Lab in Richmond, California, are not part of the prosecution for discovery purposes. So she didn't go into any other details, but if I took it the way she said it, that they are not under the same obligations like the prosecutor is for Brady information, exculpatory information, to turn over DNA information. I don't know what exactly the specifics that she's talking to. I'm sure we'll find out soon enough. The jury came up at 1:48, and Mr. Jim Hamiel, I believe that's how his name, if I pronounce it wrong, I apologize. This guy is a pretty good guy on the stand. He really is. It's like the face bringer we had yesterday. He just puts the information out there. That's what he's supposed to do. He's an expert. Guy's intelligent. He's articulate. I feel he knows what he's talking about. We'll find out more when the defense does his cross, and I'll get more of a feel for him. So he's get back in the stand. Marlissa Ferreira is still doing direct. He's talking about on August 4th, I think it's August 14th. I wrote down the 15th, but I think it's August 14th, 2015. He was, they talked earlier about in the morning session that the search warrant at the 9th Street addresses. Well, he also went over to Poppencork, I believe it was the same day, to do they did the walkthrough on the 15th. It could have been the next day, but I think it was the same day. The walkthrough of the lot at Poppencorp, because Robert Woody was doing the walkthrough, pointing to where he said they buried the body. He was asked to do some digging at Poppencorp around 10:30 a.m. He met with Kurt Bunch, John Evers, and Dale Lingerfelt at Poppencorp. He was showed diagrams, and they gave him a tour of the area, what they're looking for, what they want him to do. Now, if you remember, going back, in one of the 402 hearings prior to the trial, or not, I'm sorry, it was it was a 402. It was part of the eliminating motions and all that stuff that was going on back in whenever it was. He used that T-bar to probe around in the ground to find out where the soft spot was, where there'd be an area that was previously dug up. They're going to, dig it up and look for evidence. He didn't take soil samples, and he's a soil expert. So they use this. It's a metal rod with a T-handle on the top. He uses his weight to push in the ground around and to check for soft spots, and then they dig it up, and then he can tell how deep it was dug up prior. He received some background information in regards to some statements that were directed to that area in the side yard. Um, he was pointed out to the southeast corner of the lot. There was a pile of debris. He was out, he said, about 3 feet away from this pile of debris, and you see the pile in the pictures and stuff. They pulled out, Marlissa Ferreira pulled out photos 631 to 705. And anybody has any questions, feel free to text me. It comes up on my screen right in front of me, and I can, or email me, or text me, or give me a message on Messenger. I can take your comments, questions directly, and we can do things that way just as easily as any before. Again, when you're listening here, nobody knows who you are. I don't know who you are because I cannot see who's out there listening. I just get stats later, and that doesn't tell me anything other than cities. So keep that in mind. Don't be afraid. Say what's on your mind, and let's tell me what you think, or ask a question, because there may be somebody else thinking the same thing. Somebody else may be thinking the same thing that listens to it later on. So they brought out, there were some photos. There were evidence numbers 631 to 705. There were 74 photos of the pop and cork yard. It was some of the store from the street. There are various, and I noted a lot of this stuff down, but a lot of it was repetitive. He took a picture, moved 2 steps to the left, took a picture, moved 2 steps, and things like that. He was just getting different angles of stuff. So she went to admit these photos into evidence. Objection. Sidebar. The judge had ruled, and this is what I don't really understand on some of this stuff, because what do I know? I'm a dumbass, right? Well, okay. Mr. Microphone probably agrees with that. She had ruled previously in the previous 402 hearing, the evidentiary hearing, about some of these photos. Marlissa Ferreira was put those photos in that the judge said that she had ruled that they not be allowed to be put in. So they did a lot of talking off the record. The judge finally grabbed the pile. They're trying to figure this out. The judge was confused. Nothing new. And she finally took all the pictures that were in question and took them down. The jury wasn't there. The jury was only in the courtroom 11 minutes, and they were out. And she lined up these pictures and questions on the bar in front of the jury box. And so they were looking through them, and they were Marlissa Ferreira was agreeing to take some out, and they were talking about them. So apparently there were still maybe 4 or 6 pictures that was still in dispute by all involved. Remember, these had already been ruled on. Judge Aniga pulled up the transcript of that hearing that day, had it printed out, and it was a large transcript. That thing was printing for quite a while. There's a printer right there in the courtroom. And so she's going through the text of the transcript of the motion, and trying to figure out which ones are allowed and which ones are not. She couldn't figure out what she said. She did note some, like, some 7 through 15, those pictures were out. Due to some of the personal vehicles. There was just a picture of a car, picture of a patrol car, picture of crime scene tape, things like that were out. They have no value, she said, and it was accumulative on a lot of them. A lot of these pictures are very accumulative. So, but she said the record was so poor that she made that day, she wasn't sure what she did. Judge Aniga was not sure what she did. So she did take something out. She did talked about something else. They were looking at the pictures on the front of the bar. She was back up on the bench. She had said, well, she's not going to allow whatever picture it was. And then she looked over at the prosecutor's bench, and she said, quote, Mr. Bunch, You are not helping right now. I heard what you said. So he apparently had made a comment that was loud enough for everybody to hear. I couldn't hear it in the back, but it was loud enough for everybody to hear, and Judge Aniga heard it up there. Um, and she was not pleased. So whatever it was, I don't know. Um, so um, she left it at that, but she did give her one of her judge-like looks that she, on occasion, rarely occasion, gives towards the prosecutor's side. Hans argued that some of the pictures were excluded in that hearing, and the DA is not willing to withdraw those pictures now. He says you've already ruled on them. You know what they basically did is have another evidentiary hearing right then, after they already had an evidentiary hearing prior to this. That's what the hearings are supposed to be for, so you don't have these problems in the middle of the trial that keep coming up in the middle of this trial. There were some pictures of lights, the parking lot, just things they're saying. I didn't see the picture, so I don't know. They didn't put them on the overhead. So now, what it came down to, she was now allowing 4 pictures that the defense says was not allowed back then. That she ruled on this one, and apparently they decided to have another evidentiary hearing, and she's now allowing them. At this point, the jury only had 11 minutes in the courtroom, and at this point, they were taking a break. They started at 1:30. It was around 2:40 or so, and the jury had only been there about 11 minutes. The jury was called back up, back into the courtroom. In fact, she said this when she sent the jury out of the courtroom. She says this should only take a minute. Just wait in the hallway. Well, they waited in the hallway, and then when we were all leaving for break, the bailiff went out and told them to come be back. They'll call them back up about 3:05. And again, you should have seen the looks on their faces. So finally, at 3:05, jury's back up, and so she starts going through these pictures, 631 through 705, one at a time. They have to be validated. I understand that they are evidence. They have to be valid. They have to be, you have to prove who took these pictures and how they took them. Well, Mr. Heimiel, I'm sorry I pronounced your name wrong, but took these pictures out at Poppenkork. There was a picture of Poppenkork. These were on August 15th, 2015. And the first one was a picture of the Poppenkork from, looked like he stood in the middle of East Avenue. Took a picture in the front. Different views of different pictures, so I may skip over some of these because they're the same picture basically, just different angles, different views. He may move a few steps left or right or whatever. Poppenkork is on the corner of East and Rose, and so he moved over to Rose Street, and he was getting the parking lot, and then the front door, and then the side wall, what they call the east wall that faces Rose Street, and then he kind of moved around towards the back. It showed the east wall and the fence in the back. It was a wood fence around the back. And I just looked at the wrong page. I was wondering why that information looked familiar. And then it was the southeast corner of the property, talking about the lot looking north. The fence and Poppenkork, showing both of them. It's like I believe it's the west wall of Poppenkork, looking at the fence from the outside, back in the alley from the fence. The front of the lot looking the other way, looking which would be south. Um, I know a lot of you don't understand directions, but that's the only way I can keep it straight. Um, then there was an easterly view of the front lot with a pop and cork wall, close up of the storefront, and they also pointed out the door that he went into when he went inside Pop and Cork, but they didn't show any pictures of the inside of Pop and Cork. The gate to the side yard, different angles of that. Inside the fence line again. And she stopped going through the pictures. That was number 654. And inside the side lot, the south fence line, that's where she started talking about where he was pointed out and where to go, where to dig, where to check. There's multiple areas in the yard that had depressions. And now when he's talking about a depression, he's saying when there's any type of organic matter, it could be a human, a dog, a garbage, or whatever, that when you first bury it, it has, it could be a mound or a depression or something, and then the dirt settles down as whatever it is decomposing. So it kind of settles down into when the body, or say it's a body, is decomposing down. He only dug one place where Robert Woody pointed. He noted there was other depressions in the yard. There was garbage that was buried back there at one time. I don't know if it was done by the people at Pop and Cork or what. They didn't get into that. I haven't heard anything about that. He did not visually look closer at any other depressions, even though he said he saw some. He did a soil probe with his, he calls it a probe. It's a metal bar. It's about 3/4 inches in diameter. It's got a 4-foot. It's a 4-foot steel rod with a handle on the top, like a T-bar on the top. He checked the area by the trash pile, which they showed in the pictures. The trash pile by the wall at Pop and Cork, and then it was like 2 or 3 feet away from that trash pile, where he started probing with his T-bar. He used his body weight on the bar to probe. That's how he always do it. That's his reference point. Is how he always does it. He uses that T-bar, puts weight on it to see how soft the soil is. If it's pretty firm soil, he'll move it around a little bit until he hits something soft, and then there's an area that's a depression. And he checks for density change in the ground. He found an area. It was a rectangular shape area. And if you're thinking about what I said the other day about the satellite photo showing a rectangular direction, it was a different direction. It was about the same area. I don't think it was exactly, but it was a different direction of rectangle. It's probably guesstimating a 4x6 area, maybe 4x8. I don't know. It was something like that. And it was a different direction of what the satellite images showed. He divided that area into 4 quadrants in the rectangular area. Now that's where we got the quadrants A, B, C, and D. Now the only ones that had any evidence that they submitted to the labs was I believe it was A, C, and D, or A, B, and D, one of the two. He staked it out with the wood markers on one of the corner, the edges, where the top and bottom and sides of the area that they were going to dig. He quartered them out, and then he removed the top layer of the vegetation. He just took the top layer off, so the vegetation and everything was taken off. So he just had the dirt there. He hadn't actually really dug down in. He did slightly with taking the vegetation out, but he hadn't dug in too much. He said there was a lot of trash and debris in the upper layers throughout this dig. He was done. When he was done, he'd gone down 10 to 14 inches. And again, they couldn't get him to narrow it down any more than that. I guess he didn't take a tape measure out and measure it. Um, he says, well, it was about, and the attorneys kept objecting to that because it's vague when you say, well, maybe it was this, maybe it was that, about this, about that. It's not really a proper answer in the courtroom unless they're asking you to guesstimate. And then an expert can do that too, by the way. So he says that soil was darker that they had dug out than below, and the soil was had less texture. It was harder, is what he was saying. And he discovered walls, which is hardened soil around the edges. And he reached the floor, again, about 14 inches down. And he says that shows that it was a previous hole. So then they moved on to picture 655. The picture of a lot, different angles. They had all kinds of angles there. They had Pop and Cork has a cement wall on one along the wall that separates the store from the lot. And so they were taking different angles, and he would just turn a little bit, just a few degrees, and turn, and just get a view. To tell you the truth, I don't know why he just didn't take a panoramic video or something. I don't know, but he's the expert. I'm not. I'm a dumbass. So they went down. They showed some pictures of down the fence line, the corner of the lots, different angles, different corners. He showed some pictures of a corner towards the East Avenue. Showed a picture of a corner towards at the opposite of the lot, towards the alley in the back. And if you do a Google Maps on this, it'll give you a better idea of what I'm talking about here. The Pop and Cork wall, different angles. The staked area, and he had a lot of pictures of the stakes. They were just wooden stakes that they use like in when they're staking out the ground to bring the earth movers over and level the ground off and stuff, the big equipment when they're going to build a store or something. And so it was stakes like that. They had orange markers on them. Different views of that, quite a few of those. He also said that there was a blue tarp that he saw that was underneath the trash pile right next to this hole. Now remember, Robert Woody said that there was a blue tarp that was used to put the body on when he was put in this hole. Robert Woody also said it took him about 10 minutes to dig this hole to put the body in. It took these guys about 4 or 5 hours. Again, Pop and Cork along the fence, different angles along Pop and Cork wall, from the alley, from the fence line from the alley. They're showing the trees and stuff, all the stuff they were talking about the other day in the mapping. The satellite maps. He also said that he didn't have any contact with a neighbor right next door. There's a house in one of the pictures that you can see next to the fence on the other side of the fence. And there was nobody that came out, never heard anything. And he also said he didn't hear any people or dogs next door at this house. So, and I believe one of those people that lived there was one of those gentlemen in court earlier this morning. Again, the Pop and Cork wall, we're up to about picture number 679 now. Along the fence along the alley. Again, a close view of the stakes. They were kind of random. I don't know why. I guess, he knows what he's doing. I mean, I'm not going to second guess him, but I don't know why he would take a bunch of pictures of the lot, take pictures of the stakes, take a picture of the holes, take a picture of the lot, take a picture of the alley, take a picture of the stakes. He wasn't doing it in any type or unless he's had somebody else that kept telling him to do something different. I don't know. So he also noted there was no vegetation removed prior to the picture being taken where the stakes were. Now, it was kind of a bare area, but there was some vegetation there. But you could see the dirt and stuff there. It was kind of a bare area. Also the same in the next two pictures. He took a picture after the topsoil. The top layer had been removed with the vegetation. It was just dirt. He does not dig outside of the stakes, so where he puts the stakes is where within that area is where the dig goes on. He does say he did say he sticks the stakes out a little farther than where he finds the soft spots. He just a little bit. He also showed a picture of the shovel they were using to dig, and he had a specific style and make and all this stuff of the shovel he was using. There was a close-up of the zipper that they had found. Remember, they found the zipper. It was in quadrant A that they wanted to compare for a match against the pants. There was an objection to that was eventually, after a sidebar was sustained, I believe because they found out that zipper did not belong to the pants. That's my guess. I don't really know. Judge didn't give any explanations on it. So that's my guess. So that was not allowed to talk about. Also, in one of the next pictures was we're up to 686 now. There was about 10 inches down into the dig. There was a red piece of fabric in the hole. You couldn't really see it in that picture. And he also noted the soil was getting harder, but you couldn't really see this red fabric in that picture. And then he showed up, the next picture showed some close-ups. And also when you noted in the close-up of that red fabric, you noticed that the soil was getting a little harder, a little more firm, and there was bigger clumps, the hard clumps. And it almost, my guess was it's adobe soil there. I don't really know, but it looked like it with the clumps. It was just breaking up, and it was pretty good sized clumps there. They also showed a picture of an overview of the vegetation that was removed. There was also where there was a white thread. It was about 9 inches long, a piece of white thread, and that was found right near the wall area. I believe it was around the 10-inch mark, where the red piece of fabric was found. He showed a picture of the excavated area from the alley side. I don't know. Maybe that's just the way these pictures. Well, no, it's an excavated area. Maybe these pictures were developed. I don't know. And the quad stakes, where they showed the 4 areas that were marked out with the stakes for the quadrants, and they were down about 10 to 14 inch depth. They also ran into a metal pipe down at where they hit the 14-inch mark in the hole, and it looked like a half-inch pipe. It could have been 3/4. I couldn't really tell, but it looked like a half-inch pipe that was down there. I don't know what that'd be for, other than maybe gas. So it wasn't a water pipe. It wasn't big enough, and it was out. That's kind of an isolated area, so it could have been a gas line that ran somewhere else. I don't know. Then he showed an overview of the entire dig area from way back, way close, different angles. That we're up to picture 691 now. He showed a straight down, almost a straight down view from the side of the hole straight down. He wanted to show the walls. He was looking at the south wall of the hole. Then the other side of the hole. Then a close-up of that wall in the hole. And then he even went even closer, like he got down on his hands and knees or zoomed in or something. So he did several of those. Another view of that wall, and then another overall view of the excavated area. And I was just looking at my analytics right now, and there's still a lot of people on our favorite post right now of the poll. Just took a glance over it to see what's going on. And then he took a picture, that blue tarp that he saw that was underneath that pile of debris up towards the wall, it was about 2 or 3 feet away from the dig area. He dug that tarp out, and he took a picture of it, and also said that he was looking for signs that any blood or any type of fluids or anything like it had been on there, and he said there was none. There was nothing there that he felt was no signs of blood or any type of fluids or anything else. So that is it. We were done. They shut down at 4 o'clock. Frank Carson had a doctor's appointment today, so they all agreed to stop at 4 o'clock today so he could go to the doctor. So the jury was in the courtroom. Gosh, maybe about an hour this afternoon. It was maybe a little bit more this morning, even though they did start late. And they have some other issues that they talked about too of scheduling. There was so much I couldn't keep up with it. They've got another hearing. I believe it's next Friday. In the morning. It's the pitches motion for the CHP officers, Walter Wells. No, I'm sorry, not Walter Wells. Scott McFarland and Eddie Quintanar. The DA's office did a pitches motion, and just to clarify what a pitches motion is, it's a motion to be able to request a court do a review of the personnel file of police officers. So if they think somebody has a history, a background of, say, violence or complaints or certain type of complaints, they want to do a pitches motion and look at the personnel file. And the judge, if she thinks there's enough probable cause to do that, and the standard's been lowered quite a bit to do that recently, the last year or two, so it's easier to do now than it was before, but it's still kind of, you got to show some pretty good cause. Marlissa Ferreira is the one that's doing this motion. It's not the defense attorneys. They chose not to join that motion. They could have joined the motion with the DA to be able to see what was done. What their DA is looking for is any statements that were made in the personnel hearings by Scott McFarland or Eddie Quintanar, and probably Walter Wells too, to tell you the truth, but I don't really know. All I heard him mention was McFarland and Quintanar. So they want any statements that were made, any information that came out during those hearings. That is Friday morning, subject to change, like everything is in this case. And I think the jury's coming back at 1:30 on Friday. Defense attorneys don't need to be there, but I'm going to be there for this pitches motion. And if the judge grants that there's enough probable cause for her to look at the files, then they have to have the files readily available. They have to have somebody in court with those files. It's called the custodial officer. I forget exactly what it is. It's the keeper of the records with whatever agency or whatever you're talking about. And they have to turn them over if the judge decides that there's enough reason for her to do that. She takes those files into chambers. It's done by herself. Nobody else is allowed to look up, and she determines if there's anything that can be revealed to turn over to the attorneys. And if Marlissa Ferreira gets it, defense attorneys will get it. So that's the pitches motion. Is next Friday. They're going to start late. I think 10 o'clock Tuesday. There's a jury conflict with one of the jurors that has to court themselves with a family member. It's a family court type of thing. And so they may be doing some other things in the morning, Tuesday morning. We'll find out for sure. And so we are going to have some more witnesses next week. So we're not going to hear from Robert Woody this week. Originally they thought at the end of October, beginning of November. It doesn't sound like it's going to happen. So they still got all these other witnesses to go through after they get through this expert, which will be back. He'll be back Tuesday. So that's about it. Let me check. There's several people on the poll right now. Really a lot of interest today. Everybody was asking me about that poll today. Let me take a look here. I have to refresh it. Yeah. There was something I was going to say and I just forgot what it was. So, looking at the feedback, let me get the poll up here real quick. Yeah, there's been about 7,200 votes, 7,200 votes. Let me see if there's any change in the results. It's about 42% yes, it's unfair to Kirk Bunch being called an asshole. 38% that says he deserves it. He's a great guy is now about 20%. No, it's not unfair is 1%. So there were some changes since I just started this podcast. So there's some activity going on. I'm looking at the comments. I don't see any fresh comments there. There is some derogatory comments going all directions, including directed at me and Tom and directed at Kurt Bunch. So, and I can almost guarantee you where those came from me and Tom, because I know the person that talks like this has talked like this on this site before, on Dawgs blog before. So he's one of their agents that likes to report to them everything that's going on, and he likes to record things. So, all right, that's all I got. Don't forget I have PayPal button on the bottom of each report. Donations have been strong, steady. They're not big. They don't have to be big. I'm just trying to pay the bills here. And I have some bills coming up to pay for the site. It's a business plan, and I'm paying for some transcripts. And I got some more transcripts that I'm going to buy. Just the court reporter's on vacation right now, so I can't get them for 2 weeks. And don't forget my sponsors. Doug Maynor, attorney at law, 15th and J Street in the Masons building. He's in the bottom, the old Masons building. And Merced Tile Supply. Talk to Doug over there, same name, Doug. And he'll take care of your tile needs. I'm serious. He's got some good stuff over there. I was impressed when I go over there. I like going over there. In fact, I'm going to go over there and steal some samples from him here pretty soon. So, yeah, talk to Merced Tile Supply. He's got all the supplies you need for tile itself, for kitchen, bathroom, whatever you need, and also for the supplies you need to install it, itself, all the glues and whatever they use and all that stuff. What do I know? I'm a dumbass. I don't know anything about that stuff. So, but he's got some nice stuff over there. Also, I wanted to note that the former mayor was in court yesterday. He walked in, sat down right across from me. I wanted to say hi, but he wouldn't look at me. And he was there about 2 minutes, fell asleep, got up 3 minutes later and left when the court was taking a break, and never saw him again. So it was nice to see him. I really appreciate him stopping by and getting involved. So, like I said, that's all I got. Anybody got anything? Now's the time to say something. Send me a message one way or another. Remember, anytime you can send me text, emails, doggonitdogsblog.gmail.com, @gmail.com. Facebook, Doggone It Dogs Blog Facebook page. You can do it on my personal Facebook page. I'll get them any way, shape, or form. You can comment on Dogs Blog's notifications on Dogs Blog Facebook, Doggone It Dogs Blog Facebook page. And I know it's confusing, but if you kind of just snoop around a little bit, you'll see all this stuff. Most of you are a member of notifications anyway, so I could notify everybody at once what's going on with shows and stuff. So remember what I say. Don't take my word for it. Come to court and find out for yourself. Good night, everybody.